Alrighty, morning everyone. So, new video, another beautiful video on this beautiful channel on another beautiful day, which is actually not that beautiful. It's kind of raining and then muddy outside and stuff. But that doesn't matter because we are inside. It's actually only barely over like 0 degrees Celsius, but it's still kind of cozy in here, and we are gonna do some nice scrapping. We are actually gonna do some very interesting scrapping today. Because we are gonna scrap this thing. This thing is one of the most interesting motors you can possibly come across. Why is that a thing? Well, because it has a lot of very interesting components that you wouldn't really get to see in any other kinds of electric motors. So, where does this thing come from? Usually from very old vacuum cleaners. Nowadays, they kind of use some different stuff, but this is how they used to do vacuum cleaners. This thing basically it turns inside of here, turns this little screwy thing, and this screwy thing turns these little brass thingies here, and attached to these brass thingies are some brushes that rotate and they suck up dust and all kinds of stuff that is laying around on the floor. So that's how these used to work. And we are today going to take one apart. I had a lot of those laying around. I scrapped mostly all of them out. They were all entirely different. This is going to be entirely different as well. So I thought, hey, let's just do one of the last ones on camera, see how that goes, see if we can maybe make some good money for that. And yeah, I think that's going to be very interesting. So we should get some good copper. You can see there are some copper windings in this thing. And there are obviously these two chunks of brass. I don't know if there are going to be any more chunks of brass in this thing, but we are going to see about that. So what we obviously also have is some cast aluminum from this like outer shell thingy, and maybe some copper wire, but not a whole lot. So plan is we are going to unscrew it right there and right there. There are some screws there. And then we can hopefully just take it apart, scrap this thing as a normal stator. Hopefully that works. I don't know. We'll see about that. But we're definitely going to try to make that work somehow. And then we are hopefully going to just be able to unscrew these brass thingies here. But I'm not too hopeful on that. That might also not really work. But we will see about that. We will definitely try. So yeah, I would say that's pretty much the plan for today. And we are going to jump straight into time-lapse and see how that's going to go. So here we go. Okay, so we are done with that. That was a hustle and a half. I cut myself twice, pinched my thumb once, and it took forever. So I don't think I'm gonna be doing that again anytime soon. But let's check what kind of money we made, what the stuff waste that we got out of it. You see, we've got a lot of stuff here. We've got number 2 copper, first of all, in a nice cherry red color, and also some other stuff that's number 2 copper that I got out of this little motor thingy before I had to basically just cut the ends and cut my losses with that. So we are gonna have to sell that as a motor. That's not too bad. You don't really lose a lot of money doing that because you would otherwise only obviously get scrap steel for that. So it's okay. It's not great, but you know, it is what it is. Sometimes we just have to cut that and sell it as a motor. That still has enough percentage of copper to be sold as a motor, so no problem there. We've got scrap steel, which is actually not a whole lot, and then we've got brass, which this stuff I can just sell as brass at my yard. They don't really care, so I'm gonna do that. I'm also gonna throw in this clean piece of brass to kind of offset that, so shouldn't be a big issue there. So we are definitely gonna do that. And then we've got some more cast aluminum back here, which we are also gonna weigh. So I would say let's just get right into it, start doing that. I also calculated up the percentages and how much money they are actually worth, each and every one of those, which also took like another 15 minutes because it really is a lot. But whatever, we'll just weigh everything separately now. So we'll start with the number 2 copper right here. Gonna put that on there. And also all of this, which is in here, hopefully without dropping like everything. There we go. Okay, so that's 75 grams of number 2 copper. Pretty dang decent. I'm gonna put this back into this little thingy thing here. It really makes a mess. It really makes a mess, this stuff. So you should probably have a little broom or something around when you're doing this, because otherwise you're just gonna have these little pieces of copper flying around everywhere, and obviously no one wants that. But anyways, that was the copper. We are gonna continue with the other metals, and then in the end I'm gonna show you what they are worth and what's the percentage on every single one of them. So let's continue with brass. There we go. Very oily, very sticky, very disgusting. So that's 224 grams of brass. For most of you, that would probably be irony brass. My yard only basically buys irony brass, so yeah, for me that's just brass. Let's continue with the motors. That's 174 grams of electric motors, copper bearing motors. Then we've got steel. 244 grams of steel. I'm rounding these up because it's really difficult to calculate them out if you don't. And then we've got 104 grams of cast aluminum. So, as you can see, the yield of actual metals that are really worth something is really good. So I'm gonna I wrote it down on this little piece of cardboard because it really is a lot to remember, and I'm gonna quickly tell you how much we got of everything and what that actually is worth. So we've got cast aluminum, first of all. That was the last thing we weighed. That was, as you saw, 104 grams, and that would be worth about 10 cents for me. So that's alright, maybe 12 cents in American dollars, and that comes out to 13% of the entire weight of the entire thing was cast aluminum. So the next thing we had was number 2 copper. We had, I think it was 75 grams, right? Yeah. And that brings us to approximately 45 cents and maybe like 60 cents in American dollars. So it's alright, it's not great, it's about 9% of the whole apparatus was number 2 copper. Next thing we've got brass. That is obviously way more for me than it would be for you, but for me this is actually 27.5%. And that's because there's some more cast aluminum and some steel on there. But as I said, my yard does not care. They buy it as is, as brass. So that would give us 67 cents in euro cents and probably about 80 cents in dollars. So the next thing we had was electric motors that weighed, I think, like 174 grams, something around that. That brings us to about 21% weight wise from the whole motor thingy, whatever that even was. And it would bring us in about 10 cents, as I get approximately 60 cents for a kilo, yeah. And the very last thing would be the steel, which was, I think, around 250 grams, which brings us to about 30% of the entire thing. And that would give us another maybe like 5 cents, maybe something like 8 cents for American dollars, something around that. And it brings us to a total of €1.37, or approximately 1.6. So that is not good. And let me explain what I mean by that. Obviously, $1.6 is not a whole lot in general, but it took me approximately 20 minutes to scrap the whole thing down. So that would give me almost $5 an hour. $5 an hour, that is not very good. That is about 1/3 of minimum wage, and you really don't want to make only $5 an hour, because that would kind of suck. So what I would suggest, if you were to really do this, you have to have a lot of them. Why do I say that? Because, well, obviously they don't really make a lot of sense financially to scrap them out. Well, yes and no. If you've got a lot of them and you have to do one step at a time and every single one of them, it really gets way more quickly. Gets done way more quickly, I should rather say, probably. And so, if you've got a lot of those, if you really collected a lot of them, or if you bought a lot of them, as it's the case with me, I didn't buy them for a lot of money. Basically, I paid I think $5 for a whole heap of them. But still, I bought them at the end of the day. And so you should probably do a lot of one single kind of them. I couldn't do that because I got a whole heap of very different ones. But if you get a lot of one kind, you can really cut this time down, probably to the point where you only have to spend about half the time doing this that I did. So that would give you approximately $10 an hour. That's still less than minimum wage, and know that. However, it's not that terrible actually, because if you really do this for 10 hours a day, and it's not that hard work, it's a bit annoying, but it's not that hard. You could definitely get home with $100 a day, and that's decent. That's actually kind of good. So I would say, if you got the opportunity to do that, you can do it. Just keep in mind, it's not very worth it. There are way better things to make a good chunk of money. But if you've got them laying around, if you got them for free, maybe you can do that, and you can make some decent money from it. So, I hope that this was helpful for you in any way. I hope maybe you can take another look at the stuff you maybe throw out, or basically, if you're a scrapper, just throw into motors on a regular basis. And I really think it's important to understand what the things that we use and that we maybe even throw away are actually worth. This was a vacuum cleaner, for example. There's not a whole lot to a vacuum cleaner besides this thing, obviously the cord, but that's pretty much it. And so this is basically the value of your regular vacuum cleaner, which is kind of interesting actually. So yeah, there you have it. I hope you got something useful out of this video. I hope you found it helpful in any way. I'd be very happy about that. If you've got any questions, or if you just want to say hi, write it in the comments below. I'd be very happy to answer that. And also, rate the video if you want to, with either a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever you might want to do. And also subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss any other videos, because that wouldn't be very nice, right? We don't want to miss videos, no. So yeah, do that if you want to. And thank you very, very much for watching, and until next time.